Oh, can you hear me now? Just want to make sure that I'm all set, good to go. Okay, I can hear myself. Can I hear myself on YouTube though? Let me just check really quick, and then we'll give it about another minute or so, and then we'll start the stream. Getting ready to go and talk about some Marvel movies. So let me just make sure that this is good to go, and then we'll get started. Okay, we'll get started. All right, audio's working. Are we good to go here? Okay, all right. Since we're all set, ready to go, let's go ahead and rank all the films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I just pop up my banner on screen. There we go. This is good. This is good. So, what's up, Justin? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you in the comments there. Yeah, this is my first time using a new software. This is called StreamYard. I was on a stream last night with Tevye Smolkas on his channel, and use StreamYard. I'm just kind of experimenting with it. So far, it looks it's pretty cool. I can see the comments pop up and everything. See, I can see Justin. Look at that. There you are, Justin. You're right on the screen there. So I can do that. I got little banners in that for like each movie, I guess. Yeah, it's just kind of cool. It's pretty cool, this stuff right here. So let me just pull up the banners again. Again, it's my first time using this software, so we'll just go ahead and we'll go ahead and get started. So, anyways, welcome into the video. Daddy's home, cake every night. That is right. Daddy's home, cake every single night, and that's the way it needs to be. Cake every night. So yeah. So there we go. Let me just add these banners really quick. So let's go ahead and start talking and ranking the Marvel Cinematic Universe films. So this video is going to consist of me talking about 23 films. I'm not going to include the TV shows because the movies may impact the TV shows, but the TV shows have like no impact on the movies, or no impact on the movies like whatsoever. So it's just kind of one of those things where a stream for it free or do you have to pay for it? No, it's free, Justin. It is totally free. I just used it last night. In fact, you know what? Let me send you a link to the stream so you can kind of join in if you want. I think that's perfectly fine. Just send a link to our chat that we have. So yeah, it's completely free. This is completely different from. This is a good alternative to Google Hangouts. I think this one does a good job. The only problem I have to do is I got the StreamYard logo on there. I guess if I paid for it, I can get rid of it. But yeah, so I sent you a link to the stream if you felt like joining in. But I'm going to be talking about all 23 MCU films. Nick Jackson did one on his channel, so it inspired me to want to go ahead and do one of my own. I think they'd be kind of fun to do. So yeah. Okay, let me just go ahead and get this going. I know I'm rambling on a bit, but that's kind of the deal with live streams. You kind of just keep talking and so on and so forth. There's so many films I haven't kept track of since Age of Ultron. All right, that's okay, Justin. You can join me for another stream. We'll talk about we'll rank the MonsterVerse movies, I guess. I mean, there's only 3 of them so far, but it should be kind of fun. But yeah, so I guess just go ahead and sit back, put your feet up or whatever you're doing right now, and I guess we'll listen to my list right here. So this should be fun to do. Anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and rank the MCU films. We're only going to be talking about the films. We're not going to be talking about the TV shows and the one-shots because those, I mean, really, I can't really time into it at all, this ranking. But yeah, we're just going to be ranking all the films from Iron Man all the way up to Spider-Man Far From Home. So there's 23 films. We're going to start at the very bottom of the barrel, and then we're going to work our way through. Now, this wasn't exactly a very easy list to put together. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, what they've been able to accomplish is incredible for the most part, but in terms of where we're at in the universe, I'm kind of overall burnt out on it. I think for the most part, it's been successful in what they were able to do. They changed the game in terms of like putting things together. I mean, who would have thought crossing over all sorts of different characters would have made money? Like studio execs were so afraid to do this concepts, and now everybody's kind of doing it. So this has been both good and bad for the film industry in general. It's been good because look, we're seeing characters crossovers, something that we've wanted to see for years come together. Like without this universe, we might have not had like other shared universes launching from there, because people were just like, you can't do that. Like, oh, we just went ahead and did. But the problem is too is everybody wants to do a shared universe now because they want to mimic the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Universal tried doing this with the Dark Universe. It didn't go over so well. That failed. I was really upset too because Universal was the first studio to have their own little shared cinematic universe. So that kind of tanked a bit. DC was doing theirs. The Conjuring universe is one. MonsterVerse is obviously one. You see my avatar there, which is Godzilla. But it's just one of those things where it's like it kind of took Hollywood by storm. But like there's also issues with it too. And the films no longer feel like films. They feel more like episodes of a TV show that's just kind of being stretched out. And instead of getting payoff in one awesome movie, you're just having to wait like 10 movies down the road. So there is some good and bad in terms of the shared universe concepts. But yeah, so and a lot of these movies, they don't necessarily stand on their own. Like you can't understand really what's going on unless you had seen like 5 to 10 other movies, and that's kind of a disappointment with it. So not really many of them stand out on their own. Phase 1 definitely does, but when you get into phase 2, 3, and such, it starts to become a little tough to stand on its own. So, all right. Well, I feel like I've rambled on long enough. Let's go ahead and start this list. Let's go ahead and start from number 23 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is a film that came out this year. It was the first. Well, you know what? Let's just go ahead and pop it up. So at number 23, in terms of my ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm going to put Captain Marvel at the very bottom. It was very tough between this and number 22, but upon like watching Captain Marvel, I really didn't like the film. I felt like it was really, really boring. There really is no arc for Brie Larson's Carol Danvers. A lot of things that they did, they kind of changed. Like they kind of retcon things, for instance, with like the Tesseract, like, okay, why is this here? Some things it's like they didn't really, I don't think they initially planned this movie. They kind of just like an after the fact, like, oh, let's just kind of sandwich this movie in between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And that way we can sell the movie better. So this movie's positioned. There was a lot of controversy surrounding the film with, Brie Larson's comments. People were just like, oh, this is the changing things. People just, oh, you're sexist if you don't like it. It just got to the point where it was ridiculous. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to just kind of wait and see the movie. I just really didn't have an interest too much in watching it. The trailers look kind of bland. And when I saw the movie, it's just bland, boring, forgettable. Really nothing exciting happens within this film. And that's kind of the reason I have it at the bottom, because I was just really bored the entire time, just kind of waiting for this movie to end. And action sequences are lame. Like I said, Carol Danvers has absolutely like no personality in this film. No real fulfilling arc or anything like that. It just overall wasn't a very good movie. So yeah. My dad was bored one day, so we went to see Endgame in theaters without seeing the previous films. He said it was one of the worst movies he ever saw, and the first time he walked out. Again, like you said, if you hadn't really seen the other films, you're going to be confused as hell if you watch Avengers Endgame. You'll be interested to see where that one is ranked on my list. But yeah, 23 is Captain Marvel. Really don't like this movie at all. I only watched it simply leading up to it when I was doing my MCU rewatch earlier this year, and it really was like the bottom of the barrel. Just some of the things they did with Nick Fury. The Skrulls are a complete mockery of what the Skrulls should be. I really just could not stand this movie at all. So moving on to number 22 is the first sequel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that is Iron Man 2. Now, I was really excited to see Iron Man 2 when it was first announced. I remember the first trailer drop. I was like, yeah, super excited. But watching the movie again, oh my God, this is an abysmal movie with a terrible villain in Whiplash. Justin Hammer's kind of good, but really lackluster action sequences. It feels like a setup movie for the Avengers. It's not really anything that's worthwhile standing out on its own. Tony Stark's like solution for coming up with this new element really doesn't really make much sense. It is a chore to sit through, and it really just made me like, wow, is this how the universe used to be? Like going back and rewatching Phase 1, there's some movies that like hold up very well, like the first Iron Man, but then there's other ones like Iron Man 2 that there's just so much nonsense going on throughout this movie that's just like, okay, we got to set up Avengers. We got to set up Avengers. We got to set up Avengers. And I feel like that's kind of the problem. It doesn't really stand on its own. It's not really an interesting story. It felt like a filler movie that was more focused on building up and setting up other movies as opposed to telling a good story on its own. Action sequences, like the third act action sequence with Whiplash, and War Machine and Tony Stark. It was just way too short. It felt really lackluster. There really wasn't much excitement with it overall, and it's nowhere near as good as the first Iron Man film. And I'm just disappointed in how it turned out. So, yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that one. Let's go ahead and move on to number 21 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe rankings. It's the Temple of Doom to Iron Man. Yeah, in a way, it kind of is, Justin. It really doesn't. It doesn't hold up on its own. It's even Temple of Doom is more entertaining. Like Temple of Doom still stands on its own. You don't necessarily have to watch the other movies, and Temple of Doom does not feel like a setup movie to anything else. But Temple of Doom is definitely one of the weaker Indiana Jones films. I mean, it goes. I enjoy some of the dark parts of Temple of Doom, but Iron Man 2, Robert Downey Jr. is pretty good, but again, lacking a really strong antagonist. Just some things that are just kind of filler. I just really can't stomach sitting through it. It's just mostly boring. So then, speaking of Iron Man, he's once again back on this list as we talk about number 21, which is Iron Man 3. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, Iron Man 3. I remember being so excited to watch Iron Man 3. Granted, this is the first film to come out after the Avengers. Now, the Avengers came out in 2012. I saw that movie, and I'm not kidding you, 3 times opening day. I went to the midnight showing because this is back when they used to do midnight showings instead of 7 p.m. previews, which I actually kind of prefer because I actually have time to watch the movie and I can get some sleep. But there was a certain appeal to watching movies at midnight that I don't think will ever be really recreated. But Iron Man 3, I was so excited. I had my AC/DC shirt on. I had my little Iron Man mask ready to go. I had my little Iron Man get up. I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and watch Iron Man 3. I was so excited to watch this thing. And I sat down in the theater. I turned it on. And like, if you could get a before and after reaction to me watching Iron Man 3, it would be actually pretty hilarious. Because, like, you see the excitement of me going into the theater, and then you just see the shocked look on my face leaving the theater of, like, what the hell did I just watch? What was that thing? The Mandarin, Guy Pearce. Oh, my God. It was so bad. The jokes were cringeworthy. Downey Jr. is pretty good. I do like the only stuff I like is just how they kind of deal with the PTSD of Iron Man, but at the same time, just like, where was this in the other movies? Like, it just, and then like none of the Avengers show up to help out Tony Stark. He gives his fucking home address to a terrorist, and it was really, really bad, and I just couldn't believe what I was watching. Okay, here's a comment from Justin. Let's go ahead and read this really quick. I saw the first Avengers twice while several people I was hanging out with in the saga with my folks. My grandparents fell asleep despite all the action. Yeah, a first Avengers movie. It's a game-changing movie in terms of cinema. Like, I have a really soft spot for the first Avengers movie. It doesn't hold up quite as well as it did when I first saw it, but I still really liked the first Avengers movie. But it's to each their own. So, anyways, yeah, Iron Man 3, I really don't like. I don't ever want to really watch it again. Even when I was doing my MCU rewatch, I kind of struggled through it. So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. But, yeah, so that's number 21. Let's go ahead and move on to number 20 in terms of my ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And at number 20, again, this is another film that came out this past year. Spider-Man Far From Home. This is you can watch my review on it. I left the theater Far From Home, like in Far From Home. You can even see it like in my look in my eyes. I'm like, I felt a major disconnect with this movie. I don't like this version of Peter Parker. I'm so sick and tired of seeing Spider-Man in the shadows of Iron Man. It's never supposed to be like that. Spider-Man has his own legacy. He's his own character, stands out in his own. But yet again, they make him just somebody else, like tied to Tony Stark. The movie makes a complete mockery of the events of Endgame immediately, with the kids memeing and having little tributes at the beginning of the movie, like with Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You." The first 30 minutes or so, this film is an awful like teen Disney Channel movie with the dialogue and just the emotional maturity of like little kids, I guess. It's like, oh, we're dating now. I'm like, okay, no real consequences for Peter Parker until I guess the very end. There's no real surprises, I guess, till the very end. The best part of this movie is the J. Jonah Jameson cameo. And even then, like, it felt kind of half-assed, where it was just like, why does he not have his classic hairpiece? Like, could you just not just give him that? Like, that would have been really cool. but I guess not. I really didn't like this movie. I'm so sick and tired of this version of Peter Parker. And in all honesty, I'm kind of glad that he's out of the MCU. Um, and the sad thing is, I like Tom Holland too. I think performance wise, he's pretty good. But I'm just so sick of I'm so sick of Spider Boy. I'm like, he's not a legacy hero. He's his own character. It's just ridiculous. So Spider-Man Far From Home, I just left the theater. I felt really absolutely nothing. And I just kind of was like, at that point, I'm like, what just happened? Like, this is a Spider-Man movie. Like, why do I feel this way? So yeah, that's kind of where my disappointment came with that movie. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to number 19. Thor, the first Thor movie. Once again, another phase 1 movie. A lot of these phase 1 movies, come to think of it, aren't holding up quite as well. You'll see a lot of them kind of lower on this list because the Marvel Universe did get better in a lot of regards. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man films are a lot better. That is absolutely true, Justin. That is 100%. I fully support that. Sam Raimi Spider-Man films are a lot better. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just watching Spider-Man 1 and 2. Like, they really showed why I cared about Peter Parker. Like, he's really trying to make it out on his own as a hero. He's not in the shadow. He doesn't have all these people to give him all sorts of gadgets and that. Like, oh God, Spider-Man. Oh, yeah, grr. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Number 19, Thor 1. Now, Thor 1, I didn't really like when I first saw it. I guess some of the things, there's a few aspects that are cool. Tom Hiddleston as Loki. He's not quite the Loki of the Avengers. He was fine in the first Thor movie, but he really improved like as he went through the series. Same with Chris Hemsworth. Anthony Hopkins I always thought was good as Odin. But my issues with this film, it's super duper rushed. I mean, they just Thor's entire character arc happens within a span of 3 days. You know, he's been alive for over 1,000 years or so. And then within 3 days, he's completely like a completely changed person. Like he's like completely, his character arc felt really, really rushed. And just, like, it was just like, oh, I didn't get my hammer. I'm like, why didn't his dad just do that earlier on? I really have no clue. The comedic relief of it's really bad. The action sequences are incredibly rushed. It felt like they ran out of money. Granted, this is before like the Avengers, and again, they had like kind of those issues of just like, okay, we got a sub Avengers, and some of the little bits where people were kind of crossing over were a bit cool. And I remember being excited for the first Thor movie. Like his battle with the Destroyer armor is so like they build this thing up like, oh shit, it's the Destroyer armor. The battle lasts about like 20 seconds and Thor wipes it out. The first Thor movie is really, really dated. Doesn't really hold up or stand out on its own. It is a neat way to see where Thor started in terms of a character, and kind of seeing where Thor is at now in the MCU. I'm really beginning to miss like phase 1 Thor, because where Thor is at now is just a complete joke and mockery of the character. So I'm really kind of sick of the way Thor's at. So, and speaking of Thor, let's go ahead and move on to the next bit. Number 18 of my Marvel Cinematic Universe ranking, Thor: The Dark World. Yes, this is widely regarded as, arguably by most people, as like the worst MCU film, or definitely near the bottom of the barrel. And I tend to agree with it. I definitely think that this is one of the worst films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is it as good as the first one? I think it's the only reason I'm giving this one the slight edge to it. The humor is a little bit better in certain regards. Loki is in it a lot more, and his personality really shines through. Chris Hemsworth has improved as Thor. The villain is absolutely awful. Malekith the Accursed. This is where people began to realize that, okay, Marvel definitely has a villain problem. The action sequences are a little bit more exciting. The villain is really bad. Natalie Portman, yeah, she's still not very good. Like, they're kind of neck. These two movies are kind of neck and neck with each other. But I just feel like the first Thor movie is definitely drags a bit more. Where Thor: The Dark World, I kind of just Thor, gee, it sure is boring around here. Odin, my boy, this piece is what all the warriors strive. Thor, yeah, like I'm just not really a big fan of these first two Thor movies. In general, even when I saw this one, I'm like, okay, this one's definitely an improvement over the first one. Slightly, nothing like amazing or anything like that. Even the audience I saw it with kind of had a good time with it. But in general, like I said, issues I have, Malekith the Accursed, it's more worried about setting up future films. This is where the movies start to feel more like episodes as opposed to self-contained movies, because they're building up to the Infinity Stone saga. So I just wonder what Loki's up to. Yeah, Loki's definitely the show stealer in this film. So that's one of the reasons I gave it like this much of regard. So yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 17. Number 17 just came out last year, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, I really like the first Ant-Man film. Ant-Man and the Wasp, not so much. I felt like this one, once again, is one of those films that really kind of dragged. Paul Rudd's personality kind of shines through for it. It is a smaller movie, but I just felt like they really kind of dumbed him down just to make Wasp look better. They really undermined his intelligence as a character this time around. Like, Scott Lang really kind of doesn't really know anything. Again, it's trying so hard to be this lighthearted movie that there's no real stakes to it. There's no real villain in this movie either. We have Ghost, who's just kind of just trying to survive, and it's kind of sympathetic in that regards, like in intense pain this whole time. Walton Goggins is in there, completely wasted. It just felt like after, like, because this one came out right after Avengers Infinity War, it just felt like such a huge step down in terms of like just where everything was at with it. So I was just kind of just like, it's not really doing anything for me in that regards. I just kind of wish they would have done a little bit more with this movie. It really doesn't hold up very much, like, at all. I'm just kind of at that point where I'm like, I'll take it for what it's worth, but it's really just not doing it for me. So Ant-Man and the Wasp, not so much. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to number 16. Now, I was really close to choosing 16 and 15 are kind of neck and neck with each other, but ultimately I gave the edge to the later. Or you know what? Hang on. I'm changing things up right now. I'm switching my 15 and 16, and you'll see why in a second. Hold on. Okay. Let's change this up really quick. Okay. At number 16, here we go. With the 16th film in my ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I decided to choose Black Panther. That's right, Black Panther, the film that came out last year and took kind of the world by storm. Black Panther is one of those movies where I liked it when I first saw it, but progressively, the more I watch it, the more I really start to like dislike it. Even when I saw the movie, there's things that just I didn't really like. The action sequences are not very good at all. In fact, the action sequences are really piss poor. The CGI is absolutely atrocious, especially in the third act. There is some beautiful cinematography. The score, there's some soundtracks on the score that I think are pretty good, like a King Sunset, the track of King Sunset in particular, when it's T'Challa and Eric Killmonger doing battle with each other. I thought that was particularly very good. But Killmonger is a villain. I know so many people really kind of like, oh, Killmonger, he's like this great mind-blowing villain. I'm like, well, he's better than a lot of them, I saw where his motivations were, and they were kind of like some of the stuff. I'm like, oh god, here we go again. But like some of the issues I have with Killmonger, like when he becomes the villain, is he doesn't really do much. Now he kind of takes over, like, and then he's king for like a day. T'Challa comes back, whoops his ass, and kills him. Like that's it. Like he didn't really like do much, nothing too sinister. I mean, he kind of he kills Claw, which is a disappointment. Andy Serkis to me was the best part of this entire movie, but Killmonger and like his battle and that, like the CGI, like I said, is really bad, and it really kind of takes me out of it. I felt like I was watching a cutscene from a PlayStation 2 video game, and I just couldn't believe it. But like, I think my biggest issue with the film is it's really, really, really boring. The humor isn't connecting at all, but there are some moments that are pretty good. Like I think Ryan Coogler is good with a lot of the serious character moments, but he's just not very good when it comes to when it comes to humor or action or things like that. Again, I think it's what are those? Yeah, like Shuri. I actually liked his sister. I thought his sister Shuri was pretty good. Like I said, there's a few moments. Maybe the Shuri, like I like Shuri. And T'Challa, I think, is pretty good, but I think T'Challa was done better in Captain America's Civil War, if I was telling the truth. But yeah, Black Panther, it is a severely overrated movie. It's not a terrible film, but it's one that like the more I watch it, the less I enjoy it. So I try, but I will like. There are some good moments in the movie, and I guess it's worth checking out at least once. So yeah, Black Panther, you're right there in that kind of mid-tier level of this list. So anyways, let's go ahead and get to number 15. The Incredible Hulk. Okay, so The Incredible Hulk, the most forgotten about film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, I really liked The Incredible Hulk when I first saw it back in 2008. And the more I watch it now, the less I enjoy it. But there are things I will give it credit for. It feels like its own standalone kind of movie. Now, it's the first film, it's the second film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was the first time that we saw characters starting to cross over a bit, which was really cool. Edward Norton, I feel like he gets kind of a bad rap at some points because I'm really watching where Hulk is now and seeing him back then. I really kind of missed this version of Hulk where he was really unhinged and you never knew exactly what he was going to do. The villain's kind of lacking for the most part, but there's some really good action sequences. The fight between the Hulk and Abomination is pretty cool. Again, it suffers from parts that really drag, just kind of being like shelved in terms of the MCU. Like Abomination, what happened with him? He kind of got shelved. Dr. Blue or Mr. Blue or Mr. Green? They set that one dude up like when he's the guy whose head starts to like expand a bit, like Tim Blake Nelson, I think that's his name. I didn't watch this film until the last day it was playing in theaters. There was hardly anyone else there. Yeah, Incredible Hulk, like I said, I really dug it when it came out, and but now it just doesn't really stand out quite as much. But I do miss when Hulk was like this. I do miss this version of Hulk where he really had to struggle with his problems like this. I miss it. I just the more I watch this, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of missing where Hulk was at here. Like I said, there's some good action sequences here. It is a solo Hulk movie, which is nice. It's much better than the 2003 film Hulk, which I don't really like at all. I find that one extremely boring. Liv Tyler is Betty Ross, the daughter of Steven Tyler, lead singer of Aerosmith. That's right, and I don't want to miss a thing. And she's in the music video for Armageddon, which is kind of funny. Liv Tyler, yes. Betty Ross. What the fuck happened with her? I mean, she's just completely gone. She's completely forgotten about in terms of the MCU. Like, I never understood why Bruce Banner was like kind of into Natasha Romanoff when he had Betty Ross just kind of sitting there. It's like he completely forgot. Like he found a way to, break free from his little thing. He had like an out. Like he was kind of working with the Avengers now. Like why doesn't he go to visit Betty fucking Ross? It's still a film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's one that just is completely forgotten about, and it really, really infuriates me. So, The Incredible Hulk, again, it's an all right movie kind of nowadays. There's some cool moments in it, but a lot of it just kind of drags when I was watching it, and I'm like, maybe not so much anymore. So, there's that. But anyways, I was talked about Incredible Hulk. Number 14, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Again, the first solo MCU Spider-Man film. I gotta get my drink in. The first solo MCU Spider-Man film starring Tom Holland, and I liked it when I first saw it. I thought there was one really cool twist involving the Vulture and his daughter that I was like, okay, sweet. But some of the issues I really can't stand Peter's classmates. I think all of them are really annoying. Ned is okay. Flash Thompson is a complete mockery. Michael Keaton, though. Michael Keaton is fucking great in this movie. Michael Keaton is the best part of this entire film. But there are some bad points in it. For instance, the action sequences aren't very good. Spider-Man, like Peter Parker, this doesn't feel like Peter Parker as a character too much. I felt like I'm just watching Iron Man Jr. Again, a lot of my issues with Far From Home, but the worst parts of Homecoming are like most of Far From Home's problems. There are some bits where I like to see Spider-Man kind of make it on his own as a hero, but he always has somebody there to kind of back him up because there's no real consequences for any of Peter Parker's actions. It always feels like he has a security blanket right there for him at all times. And I really, really don't like that. It's kind of disappointed me in that regards. And like I said, action sequences aren't very good. There's a neat twist involving Peter going to date like the Vulture's daughter. Like I said, Michael Keaton is very, very good in this movie. I just wish he was allowed to kind of let loose a bit more. Action bits aren't very good at all. Like there's really no cool, like memorable action sequence in this film, which is kind of a disappointment. Tom Holland is good in the role he's given, but I was just kind of done with the return of it. It's like this is the first time Sony's allowed to use MCU characters, and like every 5 minutes they're like, "Look, MCU character! Look, MCU characters!" Like, okay, we get it. It's in the MCU, but can Spider-Man stand out on his own? Apparently not. So yeah, that's Spider-Man Homecoming for you. Let's move on to number 13. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, I liked Guardians 1. Guardians 2, it's kind of one of those movies where there's some, when I was doing my rewatching, like I enjoyed it maybe a bit more than when I first saw it. There's some jokes that are working, but then there's other times where the humor really kind of detracts from the movie. For instance, I'll give you an example. When Peter Quill is interacting with Ego, and Ego tells him the truth about like how Ego was responsible for his mother's death. Now, when that happened, it's like, oh, shoot, here's a serious moment. Then immediately, like 5 seconds later, he's turning into David Hasselhoff, and it completely takes me out of the scene. Now, I love me some Kurt Russell, and Kurt Russell's fine in this movie. Not really a great villain, but, you know, I see kind of where he's, I guess, coming from. I bet he's certainly more interesting than Ronan was in the first movie. The humor, there's some moments that are funny, but then there's some times where it's just like, it just kind of felt like all jokes. Like it starts out, they have this stuff with like these people and these gold people and these batteries. That stuff kind of goes nowhere, I guess. It just felt like there was like a bunch of other stuff. Like it felt like there was two completely different movies going on here. It's like, yeah, this bit where they're kind of running away from these gold people, and then you had the bit with Peter and his father, and it doesn't really flow so much together. Like in the first movie, they had like the singular goal of the orb. Oh, hey Tubia, how you doing? But the second movie, it just felt kind of like a little bit all over the place in terms of like the plot in that for me. It's again not a terrible film. There's some nice humor in that and there, but it really just wasn't doing it for me this time around, like the first one was. So yeah. So okay. All right, that's Guardians 2. Again, I'm kind of I haven't really watched it since the rewatch, and it doesn't really stick with me quite as much. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to what is it? The number 12 spot in terms of my MCU rankings. Sorry. Oh, no worries, Tevya. No worries there. Also, I want to thank you for introducing me to StreamYard. I really do like the software. I think it's pretty cool how I can do all this stuff and add these banners and stuff. Maybe I should just sign up for like the real deal so I can get rid of this StreamYard logo. But yeah, I really do like this setup here. All right, number 12 in terms of my Marvel Cinematic Universe rankings. We're going to go with Avengers Age of Ultron. That's right, the highly anticipated follow-up to the first Avengers film, and it definitely has some problems for me. Ultron, like I said, I liked him as a villain for the most part, but kind of my issues with Ultron, and it's just like there's too many quips in this movie. Like the quips, it just got so ridiculous, and it really kind of took me out of the film. For a lot of these characters, like every second's like we're quipping. There's some random things that don't make much sense. For instance, Thor randomly goes, he's like, if I can go sit in this water, the water spirits will tell me something's in my dream. Like it's so worried about setting up future events. It doesn't really stand on its own. Again, action bits like the third act. I got no strings to hold me down. I'm not tied up to anyone. Yeah, the trailer for Age of Ultron was really good, though. Like the way they tied it in with the no strings bit. This is kind of the point where it's like, yeah, it kind of had some problems because it really doesn't stand out on its own quite as much. It's trying too hard to set up so many things, and you can tell that Joss Whedon was kind of broken by the end of this movie. He was like, okay, I'm trying to do this. Like, oh, you got all these guidelines. You got to follow in this regards. It doesn't really stand out as much on its own. First, like Nature of Ultron is really interesting. Yeah, that's a fair point. I just don't really like this one as much as the first one, all things considered. They made Hawkeye a little bit better, which is good. The mind control thing, we kind of saw this thing again. Once again, they're going after Loki's scepter. Once again, they have to fight another mindless drone army like they did in the first film. But it's just not like it's like that anticipation and build up of seeing the heroes come together for the first time. Again, seeing them go after Loki's scepter. Granted, minding all the things that we saw in Phase 2, it's like, okay, they're all assembled for this, but they didn't help the other Avengers and like these other points there. I feel like this is also the last time Bruce Banner was like an interesting character too. He's not as good as he was in the first Avengers film, but he still was like, he wasn't a complete mockery at this point. So granted, they were going after Hydra. Yeah, they were going after Hydra, but I was just wondering where they were throughout the rest of the other MCU films. Like Thor: The Dark World, don't really help him at all there. Iron Man 3, there's nobody to be found. Stuff like that. But Avengers Age of Ultron is a bit overcrowded. Like, there's so much going on in this movie, but it just didn't quite reach the high bars of the first one for me. Again, I'll watch Age of Ultron. I think it's fine. I just don't like it quite as much as the first one, all things considered. So, yeah. Maybe they were busy. Yeah, that's true. Maybe they were busy. But still, like, nobody seemed to care at all. Even like not Bruce Banner, though. Bruce Banner literally is listening to Iron Man's story at the end of the first film, and he's just kind of just like half asleep. And I'm just going like, why are you half asleep? All right, let's move to number 11. Number 11, Doctor Strange. That's pretty good, but it's taken. Again, Spider-Man 2 reference. Doctor Strange. Again, this is visually a very creative film. Doctor Strange is a bit of an asshole in the movie, which I kind of like, but it comes to the point of like, okay, dude, enough. But I think my biggest issue with Doctor Strange is it's pretty much just Iron Man, but with magic. Like he's Stephen Strange is basically Sherlock. The actors playing Sherlock Holmes. Both are real arrogant assholes. They basically get humbled and get injured at some point. Tony Stark with his chest, Doctor Strange with his hands, and Tony Stark is able to use his brain in that to they meet some kind of wise mentor of sorts that kind of change them. Doctor Strange, though, what was that? Well, to be fair, in the comics, he was kind of like that with his origin. Yeah. Doctor Strange, like, they're both kind of assholes, like the same deal. Both actors playing Sherlock Holmes, they have kind of the same facial hair of everything. They do that, then it's kind of just the same. It's really kind of the same arc, but with magic. Although what Doctor Strange has that a lot of other MCU films don't have is it's visually stunning. Like, there's some of the crazy like magic shit that they have going on in this film. Really, really good. And like the humor doesn't always quite land for me, but I just think visually it's an absolutely stunning film. I think it's really creative with its imagery. And the climax, too, I think is a lot more creative with Doctor Strange really rewinding time and such. I think getting Scott Derrickson, a horror director, to make this was the right choice. In terms of MCU films going forward, the one I'm most looking forward to is Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. But again, like this one, it suffers from kind of the same thing. It's like really no serious stakes at all in this. I mean, there's stakes in there, but you don't really feel suspense because they've already announced like 15 other movies. And again, it feels like, okay, we got Strange's origin. Let's set him up for the next batch of movies. It doesn't really stand. I mean, I think that's kind of the issue with a lot of these shared universe things. They're so worried about setting up other movies that they don't quite stand out as much on their own. And Doctor Strange, like, for the most part, you can watch this on its own, but I still have some kind of slight issues with it, but really not too many problems with it. I guess overall, I think it's a solid choice. I agree. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness sounds really awesome. Yes, Tevy, I think it does. Oh, Heidi Nerdy Blurb TV, agreed. Yep. So yeah, Doctor Strange. I think it's definitely solid. Again, I just think there's other movies that I like more. So okay, let's get to number 10. And by God, I'm losing my voice. I gotta slow down and talk. Okay. Number 10, Captain America, the First Avenger. That's right, the first movie featuring Captain America. I am losing my voice. Let me get some water. Let it rest for a second. Okay, Captain America, the First Avenger. All right, so Captain America, the First Avenger. What I really like about this one was directed by Joe Johnston, and it feels like kind of a nice throwback blockbuster. Something along the lines of like Raiders of the Lost Ark, or, you know, thanks, Tevye. I just kind of want to get this through this time since I'm already kind of like mostly through the list. But maybe next time I'll do an invite. Captain America, the First Avenger. I think it's a solid, fun little superhero movie. Captain America is just more of this like aspirational hero. He just really wants to do good. Red Skull is kind of the classic hokey villain. And, you know, it's kind of simple. They're going after the Tesseract, which ties into other things in the Marvel Universe. And even after this movie's credits rolled, like they had the trailer for Avengers. I remember watching this at the midnight. I just had such a fun time. watching Captain America, but I just felt like Captain America is just a hero I can really get behind, a really wholesome hero. Again, there's some weak points. The CGI, this really doesn't hold up very well. Action sequence wise, it's not really the best, but I think the World War II superhero setting really helps it stand apart from a lot of other ones. And I like the Diesel punk vibes with Hydra. So yeah, Hydra was pretty sweet in this one. Red Skull, again, I love Hugo Weaving. He doesn't stand, like, in terms of like all-time great villains, like I don't really get that with Red Skull in this movie. He's fine. It just felt like kind of a classic adventure serial. Kind of reminds me a bit of like something like The Incredibles or like one of those like 50 superheroes TV shows or something that you would watch. But I like the vibes with this one. I think Chris Evans is really good as Steve Rogers, really embodies the character quite well. Peggy Carter's pretty good. Tom Lee Jones is pretty awesome as well. I just, for the most part, really enjoyed this film. So, yeah, not much else to say about that one. Let's move on to number 9. A lot better than Man of Steel. In some regards, Tevya, you can argue that. But Man of Steel, I think, has things like better score and better action in that too. Great past designs by Horton Brothers. Yeah, cool. All right. Number 9, Avengers Endgame. Now, Avengers Endgame, this is a film, like, even after I saw it, I was more mixed on it. But I think it's better than some of the other films still. Avengers Endgame is one of those movies where it's like, I love the last 30 minutes, but you have to sit through a lot of nonsense to kind of get through it. And the plot doesn't really get going till about halfway through the movie. Like, I mean, without that fucking rat, you wouldn't really have this movie at all. But Avengers Endgame, like, just, this is the end of the Infinity Saga. Like, there's some things, like I said, I love. I love Iron Man's, the way his story ends with the snapping of the fingers, like, and I am Iron Man. That was completely badass, perfect. Seeing all the heroes come back together in portals was a great sequence. But like I said, this movie drags. That first hour is nothing but dread, and I understand its purpose. But my God, you have to sit through a lot to kind of get to the good stuff. And some people will be like, well, what about movies like Jaws now? Well, Jaws is still interesting, like, throughout the whole way through. I'm not really bored at all. But, like, Avengers Endgame, I get kind of bored. And, like, the time travel logic gets so mixed up at times and kind of, like, just things like you can't change the past, you can't do this and that. But I'm like, but you're changing the past. And, like, why is Captain America, like, suddenly old in that time? And the Russos have been trying to explain things on Twitter and stuff and be like, oh, Captain America was the guy at Peggy's funeral. Then I'm like, well, then why did he make out with his niece? See what I mean? It just gets, like, if you're things that they set up the shared universe. For instance, the Ancient One runs into Bruce Banner or / the Hulk. He's just like, oh, Doctor Strange said this. You're like, Doctor Strange would be the best one ever. But wait a minute, then why did you try to kick him out in Doctor Strange? It just got to the point where I'm like, what the hell? Time travel is always confusing. Yeah, but Tevya, but like the issue sometimes is that's how all right. Justin brings up a great point here. That is how you kill off a popular character, unlike Luke's death, which is rather anticlimactic. Exactly. Iron Man goes out like a complete badass. The one-liner in that ties back to the first Iron Man movie. Austin. Well, as you probably know, the future, time travel is confusing. It is confusing, but like they fully established, like, you can't change your past in this movie. It's like, oh, well, you seem like you're kind of doing that in this film. I don't know. The time travel became kind of messy with me. There's some moments in the film, I don't want to get fully into them totally, that just felt kind of weird and out of place. The way the Hulk was in this film, I think it was just a complete bastardization of Hulk. And Thor was an embarrassment. I really could not stand this version of, like, Big Lebowski Thor. I'm like, where was the badass menacing Thor that we had beforehand? Like, what was that? And then there's certain moments in the film where I just sat there. I'm just like, I kind of groaned too. There was the scene in the movie where it was all the kind of the lady heroes coming together. And, you know, my issue with that is it just was like, okay, were they all just kind of standing in one place? It didn't feel organic at all. Like, compare that to the one in Avengers Infinity War, where they were just Black Widow, it was Okoye, and it was Scarlet Witch kind of all together in that same place at the same time. I'm like, okay, I can buy that. But this other one, it felt like, okay, we got to have this strong, empowering moment. It just didn't. It just felt really kind of out of place in that battle. I'm like, did the male heroes just tell all the female heroes like, no, 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 you have to be in this exact location at this exact time? Did they have like gender bias groups in terms of the battle? That to me, I'm just like, okay, come on, give me a break, people. I mean, you preach about this Marvel, but you never really show. I'm like, you already had strong characters in that. It just that to me felt kind of just a bit forced. It was kind of just ridiculous there. Thanos this time around is nowhere near as good or compelling. Like they killed him off in like the first like 15, 20 minutes of the movie. And I'm like, oh, well, what are you going to kind of do at this point? So I'm like, Thanos kind of just went out pathetically. It felt like, oh, like once again, this is, they travel back and they get like 2014 Thanos, who wasn't really that good or compelling to at that point in the series. But like Thanos, I don't know what it was. Like I just kind of left the theater like, I really like some of that, but some of it I really didn't. But there are some awesome, like Captain America was pretty sweet doing his thing, like standing toe to toe, wielding Mjolnir. Like I said, there's a lot of awesome moments in Avengers Endgame, but there's also a lot of like not so awesome stuff in there. So I'm kind of more mixed, and I'm kind of surprised I have it on this list as high as I do. But I think it's just what pushes it over the edge is the awesome third act. And again, there's a lot you have to sit through, but there's just a lot of awesome when it comes to like some things in this movie. I do think it's the weakest film that the Russo brothers have made. Again, I think it's better than Age of Ultron. Not by much, but it still is, for the most part, a satisfying conclusion for a lot of the characters going forward. So take that for what it's worth. But let's move on to number 8. Here we go. Add banner. Number 8. Also, Nebula and War Machine chemistry really good. Yeah, Nebula was good. Number 8, Guardians. Oh, another thing before I go on about Avengers Endgame that kind of irritates me. Peter Quill, he shows up on Earth, like, and I guess he's not gonna. I mean, this is his first time back on Earth, and like, it just seemed like it was like a non-factor. Like he was already going off into space. I would have liked to have seen him at some way interact with his family because he got abducted. Remember, he's from Earth. This is like his first time being back, and it's kind of just like brushed aside. I hope they acknowledge that in the third Guardians movie. All right, I want to move on. Speaking of Guardians, number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, this is one that has a lot of really good, funny stuff. The Guardians are all likable. I really like Gamora. I like Peter Quill. I like Rocket Raccoon. Well, we don't know if his family's all gone. I know he got kidnapped. Like, I would have liked to have seen him, like, go and just maybe some of his family's like, waited for you this whole time, Peter. That would have been cool. He doesn't even go to actively search and look for them. I think that would have been something to need to explore. Maybe in Guardians 3 they'll explore it. I was kind of hoping, I'm like, okay, this is Peter Quill's first time back on Earth, but it just really doesn't play a factor. It's pretty much a non-factor at all. But yeah, number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, this is one that really surprised a lot of people. And for the most part, like Guardians of the Galaxy is my second favorite film in Phase 2. There's some, or is it Phase, would it be Phase 2? There's another movie that comes out that I have slightly above it. But well, in the comics, he does have a sister, so anything is possible. Yeah, I mean, he probably has several siblings in that because Ego like to just fuck around a lot. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, the soundtrack is great. The soundtrack is really, really good in Guardians of the Galaxy. The heroes, the humor is on point for a lot of it. But there are weak points in it. The villain, Ronan the Accuser, is really bad. Really just a lackluster villain. Thanos, he pretty much does nothing in the movie. And when the movie doesn't have any of the Guardians on screen, it's definitely like really lacking a good on-screen presence. But overall, and like the third act, like action bit's kind of weak a bit, but the strength of this movie comes in its characters, and the Guardians are really strong characters. Drax is great, Peter Quill is great, Gamora is great, Rocket Raccoon really stands out, and Groot's still cool too. So yeah, but Guardians of the Galaxy and Yondu, I didn't even mention Yondu like in the other stuff. Like when I mentioned Guardians 2, like I think Yondu was another really strong point in that movie. So like I said, I really enjoyed the cast. A lot of the humor works. It just overall was a nice surprise, and it's one that a lot of people really like. Sheer Empire, so that's what I think they was. Yeah, Yondu was really great. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a fun, solid movie. It's definitely more exciting than a lot of other films, and for the most part, it stands out on its own. So that's one thing I appreciate about it. So yes, okay. Speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy, let's go to another film that's basically Guardians of the Galaxy, but at number 7, Thor Ragnarok. That's right, Thor Ragnarok, the only Thor movie that I actually like. Again, my issues with this film are when Asgard is destroyed, they kind of make a mockery of it. And at times the humor gets a little bit excessive. But Thor Ragnarok's a visually cool movie. Jeff Goldblum's in it, so he adds a lot more cool points to it. Some of the humor works pretty well. The action sequences are great. It's got a lot of personality. It's very vibrant, very colorful. It's just kind of a really fun movie. Kate Blanchett really hams it up as the villain, and so I definitely enjoy her there. Loki's really solid in there. The way Hulk is incorporated is nice when they're at Sakaar doing their battles. This just felt like an 80s cartoon come to life, and I think Taika Waititi did like a really solid job bringing this film together. Chris Hemsworth, again, he looks like he's having the most fun he's ever had playing Thor. Maybe a bit too much at times with some of the humor, but I think Thor looks really badass in this one. He's like, you see him kind of become the God of Thunder, the way they play Led Zeppelin music. I know Thor Ragnarok, it's maybe not for everyone. Some people don't always like gravitate towards some of this humor, but Thor Ragnarok, in all things considered, I think is a really solid MCU film, and just kind of like leaves the door open for things going forward. Although I kind of like by the end of it, like Thor kind of like, Hyde possesses like the Odin Force, and he has like the lightning powers and all that. I liked it. I really dug Thor Ragnarok. I think it's a solid one. It's definitely one that's fun to rewatch. Again, some of the humor just goes a bit far and doesn't really land. And I think Korg was a pretty annoying character too, especially in what he does once Asgard is finally destroyed. I just felt like that should have been a more serious, grim moment. But for the most part, I still really enjoy Thor Ragnarok. I mean, it has Jeff freaking Goldblum in it, going full Goldblum. What's not to love about it? So, yeah. Those are my thoughts, Thor Ragnarok. You can check out my rewatch for that. Number 6. Let's move to another one. Ant-Man. That's right, the first Ant-Man movie. I just really enjoy, speaking of the MCU and being on the Loki show, I'm okay. I really, Tevya, the only things in phase... Like, I'm okay. I guess I'll check it out. Not really too excited about the Loki show, even though I really like Tom Hiddleston in the role. I'm not that excited for Phase 4 going forward, and I'll touch on that kind of at the end of the video. But like, there's really only like 1 to 2 things I might be really excited for, 2, maybe 3, in terms of Phase 4. But Loki is kind of like third in terms of like anticipation for Phase 4 for me. But like, really everything else, you'll see. But anyways, number 6, we're going to go with the first Ant-Man movie. I really, really like Ant-Man. It's a simple story. The humor is on point. Paul Rudd's really likable. Michael Douglas is good. I think it's really creative with a lot of its action sequences. It's just kind of one of those smaller movies where I just really appreciate it more than a lot of the larger ones. The villain, again, it's kind of like Iron Man, where it's like you have the bald villain who has like the same, powers as the hero and the Yellow Jacket, but they do have kind of a fun time with it. Like they go subatomic at certain ways, and it's visually cool. He's got his little ant friends. The way it kind of ties into the other films, it knows it's a smaller film, and it knows that. But it is a lot of fun. I think Paul Rudd does a really good job. I think his daughter in that is really cool in the movie too. Evangeline Lilly's solid. Michael Douglas, like I said, is solid around 2. His friends are funny the way they recap things. But it really just kind of worked on its own as a movie. I just really enjoyed the first Ant-Man film. It doesn't try to be anything grand or anything like that. It knows it's a small movie, and it has a good time with it. So, just kind of keeping it short and sweet when it comes to Ant-Man. I really dig this one. So, yeah. And then here we go. Now we're into the top 5. The final fight was really awesome, badass. Yes, it was. The final fight taking place in the kid's bedroom instead of a city was a nice change of scenery. Yeah, absolutely. Ant-Man takes a different approach with it. It knows it's a smaller movie, and it just has a good time with it. All right, let's go to number 5. The film that started it all. Iron Man 1. So the original Iron Man, when I went back and rewatched it, I'm like, wow, this is so totally different from the rest of the MCU where we're at now. Yeah, Tevya, I really didn't like Ant-Man and the Wasp, to tell you the truth. I like the first one a lot. Didn't like the second one. The first Iron Man movie, it's the perfect blend of serious and blending humor. Tony Stark building things up and like creating his own, becoming his own hero. The way it laid the foundation, because without this movie being as solid as it was, you wouldn't have the MCU that you have today. And I really, really liked it. Just kind of everything really, basically everything really works well in this film. I guess the only weak point is the third act battle between Iron Man and Ironmonger is kind of lacking. And that's just about it. I can't really come up with any real complaints. I love seeing Tony Stark and his intelligence incorporated. The jokes are there. Robert Downey Jr. just absolutely crushes the role as Tony Stark. And I mean, everybody kind of knows that at this point, but he is the foundation of this movie. He's the reason this movie works as well as it does. Nobody really expected Iron Man to be as good as it was. I remember having to go to my friend's house and we rode our bikes up to the theater. I think that's the last time I ever did that. But we were just so excited to see Iron Man, this movie, come to the big screen. Granted, this is before the whole shared universe phase things. It was that summer. It was like Iron Man, and then it had Dark Knight, and then this. It was also this resurgence of Downey Jr. because he had this, and then in August he had Tropic Thunder, which he's fucking great in. It was just Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback here, and Iron Man was the catapult of it all. One thing I will say though, I really miss Terrence Howard as Rhodes. I still think Terrence Howard was a better Rhodey than Don Cheadle was. I just think his on-screen presence is better. He's naturally funnier, charming. I just kind of wish things would have worked out and he would have stuck around as War Machine. But really, other than that, like I think the first Iron Man movie is great. It really stands out. It holds up quite well. Some things may seem a little bit dated, but for the most part, Iron Man 1 is a great movie. Robert Downey Jr. crushes it. I like seeing him build his way out of the situation. I love how it starts the MCU. You can blame like premiere for recasting. Yeah, it's such a shame what happened with Terrence Howard. Don Cheadle's okay, but he's never really like wowed me like Howard did. But yeah, the first Iron Man movie. What else is there to say about it? It's a great movie, and it's weird going back and watching it now. Like, wow, this movie would not. You couldn't really make a movie like this in the MCU today, just considering where it was. Some of the stuff, like Iron Man is such a badass in that first movie too, going around shooting up, blowing up terrorists. Pretty solid stuff. All right, number 4, the Avengers. Do 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 dun 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 dun. All right, the first Avengers movie. I think I mentioned this already in the stream. The first movie, I saw this movie 3 times opening day. I went to the midnight showing, then I went after school with my friend, and then I went later that night and saw it in 3D. And at that point, I was kind of burnt out. I'm like, okay, no more. But the first Avengers movie, some of it seems kind of dated, like when I see kind of where the MCU's gone a bit since then. But man, I tell you what, the build up to this movie was incredible. Seeing all the characters come together, it was an event watching the first Avengers movie on the big screen. It really wasn't anything like it at the time. It was exciting. The crowd, it's kind of weird just seeing how like everybody knows the MCU now. This is like, okay, is this experiment going to pay off? But it paid off. Loki was a solid villain. The characters coming together and interacting with each other, the build up behind it all. I just felt like all of it really worked. Action sequences are great. The heroes are great. I really dig the first Avengers movie. It doesn't hold up for me quite as well as it did back then, but this is huge experiments like coming together, and that was just really cool. Which one was cool in your opinion? The Gotengo, an Atragon, or Space Battleship Yamato, or the Helicarrier? I'm not sure what that space battleship is, but hang on, Justin, one sec. Gotengo, Astragon, Space Battleship, Yamato, or Hellcarrier. I guess the Gotengo. It's just a cooler design looking ship. Too bad Holly didn't learn for this movie and try to copy the same formula. We're all failures. Yeah, you're right, Tevye. Hollywood did try to copy this formula quite a bit for the Avengers, and like I said earlier, a lot of shared universes didn't quite pan out quite as well. Dark Universe, the Dark Universe is one of them. But the first Avengers kind of changed the game in terms of shared universe. I mean, it's not the first movie to ever do a crossover like this. Universal did in the 1940s. Toho did it in the 60s with Destroy All Monsters. But it's the first one where it was like they built up an entire storyline leading up to it. It was kind of one that was planned after the fact. So, yeah. Yep, Sony did that with their Amazing Spider-Man movies. But, yeah, first Avengers, great. But there's just a few movies that I find better than it. So, yeah, there's a common theme with them, too. And, all right, let's go ahead, number 3. Captain America, Civil War. All right, so Captain America, Civil War, it was the most boring Godzilla movies I've seen. Yeah, Destroy All Monsters, Justin, it definitely drags for a lot of it outside of that third act. But, again, seeing the monsters come together was pretty cool. Yeah, Captain America Civil War, it's got some great action sequences. There's a lot of tension involved with it. When it's serious, that's when it's at its best. But it's at its worst when it gets really jokey. And I think my main issue is kind of that airport battle, and I think Spider-Man was kind of tacked down a bit too. But the airport movie unsuitable for in-flight viewing due to airport fight scene. Did not realize that. The airport fight scene is a cool action sequence, but my issue with it is like, why are the characters just joking around half the time? I'm like, half of them aren't taking the shit seriously. It should have been a lot. It should have been played straight face serious. Like even when like Natasha and Clint are fighting with each other, it's just like, oh, are we still friends? Yeah, I don't know, maybe. I'm like, it's the only one who really seemed like wanting to kill Bucky was Black Panther himself. And again, the movie doesn't necessarily work unless you've seen the other movies. Like if you try to watch this film on its own, you'd be like, okay, who the hell is that? Who's this? Who's that? I mean, they do shove a lot into this movie, and the only reason it works is because they've already had the story set up prior. But if you try to watch this movie on its own, it's not going to really work out quite as well. Yeah, Iron Man wanted to kill Bucky. I meant like up to that point, Tevye. When I really like the moment. Like I said, when the movie's at its best is when it gets really serious. Like that moment where Zemo plays the clip recording of Bucky killing Tony's parents, and like the acting in Downey Jr.'s performance there was really good. Oh yeah, Falcon was cool too, but we'll get to Falcon in a second. But yeah, Civil War was a sequel to Winter Soldier. Yeah, we'll get to Winter Soldier in a second. But Civil War, it feels like an Avengers movie. They might as well just call it Avengers 2.5. The fight between Tony and Iron Man, or Tony and Steve Rogers, is really good. But once again, the issue I have, the movie, what would have made this movie better than the number 2 film is if they would have ended it right when Cap drops the shield at Tony's feet. If Cap would have dropped the shield and then the movie ended there, I thought it would have been pitch perfect. However, immediately following the scene, we get like a little unnecessary joke. I mean, there's a Stan Lee cameo, and Stan Lee's great and all that. But we get a scene where it's like, this is Tony Stank, and then Steve writes him a letter. Oh, if you need me, Tony, I'll be right there. So basically everything you built up to, like this whole team separating and everything, like kind of leaving you, it should have left you hanging right there. Like, are they going to really come back together? Immediately, it's pretty much resolved with the letter between Steve and Tony, which is like, oh, I'll be there if you need me. What? That kind of just undermines all the emotional weight that you had shown off in the previous scene. I would have preferred if they didn't have a letter, or if they didn't like know where each other's were, if they didn't contact each other or had a way to do so. I think it would have been so much stronger. The team did break up, Tevye, but it wasn't quite as exciting because of that extra scene that they added on where Steve leaves the phone. And I'm just like, okay, and it kind of ends like where he's smiling, he's going to break them all out of prison and stuff. I'm like, the emotional weight was there, but a lot of it was they kind of shot themselves in the foot at the end by kind of showing like, okay, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry, kids. Don't worry. I know you're upset about your favorite heroes, but I was just like, it just irritated me. It should have ended when he dropped the shield. Like, that would have been perfect, because it leaves you on kind of like that really grim note. You don't know if they're ever going to come back together. I mean, we know, but it would have been stronger suited if they didn't have that additional stuff with him leaving the phone and the letter and such. I think it would have been better. But this, like I said, the best part of the whole movie is that scene with Iron Man and Captain America where he's like, "Did you know? Damn it, Rogers, did you know?" That was really good. Zemo's plan is very overly complicated too. Honest Trailers did a really good job on this, where they kind of emphasize that this and Batman vs Superman were kind of the same exact movie when they both came out. It just ultimately comes down to someone's mom and just an overly complicated plan by the villain. But for the most part, I think Civil War handled some of it better. But like, it's like, I really wish the endings would have been switched between Civil War and Batman vs Superman. Like, I think it would have made it stronger. Like, Batman vs Superman should have been the movie where like, Civil War should have been the movie where Captain America died. And Batman vs Superman should have been the movie where Superman lived. I think they really should have just kind of switched up the endings. I think it would have been better. But that's just me. We know where, like, obviously this is kind of like me speaking from like my 2016 perspective. We know where each movie kind of ends now, and it's weird to see. But yeah. So yeah, what am I saying? All right, I've rambled on about Captain America Civil War. It's a really good movie, so it's definitely worth checking out for those who want to. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Number 2 in terms of my rankings of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right, hang on. Let me just, I got to change these banners really quick. Okay, it's not letting me do this. So 1 second, guys. Okay. Only allows me 25 banners at once. Number 2, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Oh, wait. In fact, that's a movie where we got a sequel comic called Civil War 2, which was a cash grab. Yeah, I heard Civil War 2 is not very good by most people. Yeah, where are we at? Okay. Number 2, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Pretty much most people generally agree the Winter Soldier is a really great movie. It's serious for the most part. Its humor is placed out pretty well. The action sequences are phenomenal. Captain America is a pure badass. It's really an edge of the seat movie. The themes in it are really good. I like the concepts behind it too, where it's just like, you know, the idea of security, like what is the cost of security, kind of where Captain America is just like, okay, this is morally wrong. You have these guns pointing at people at all times. The thing with Steve and Bucky was really strong too. Hydra taking over S.H.I.E.L.D. was a nice twist. I thought that was cool. It was the first movie the Russo brothers did. I definitely think it's up there with being like their top tier film. What else can I say? I just really dug this movie rewatching. Even when I did my rewatch, I'm like, Winter Soldier is just, man, this one's just so freaking good. It stands out on its own for the most part. Like, it didn't, I mean, there's obviously setting up things for future films, but for the most part, it kind of stands on its own. The only thing I don't like is kind of the rushed ending a bit, where it's just like, okay, let's go get him. It doesn't really feel like a complete ending, because it's obviously has to go lead into the next batches of films. But yeah, Falcon's introduced. He's really good. The chemistry between Captain America and Black Widow is really strong, and it just made me question, and it made me even question Age of Ultron more. It's like, why would you have Nat be set up with Bruce Banner when that really the stronger relationship was Cap and Natasha? I mean, obviously Cap really loves his Peggy, but I feel like he's actually known Natasha Romanoff if you count the times, like from, you know, the first Avengers to now. Like, he still generally likes, he spent more time with her than, you know, Peggy. But yeah, I just felt like I just really like the chemistry between Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans. They have really good on-screen chemistry with each other. Winter Soldier's solid. The twist with Hydra was really nice. The elevator fight sequence is amazing. It's classic. And I like the callback that they did in Avengers Endgame. I think most people generally agree. Winter Soldier, really good, strong, solid movie. I guess, like I said, the only thing's kind of the ending's a bit rushed, but too bad Baron Strucker got killed off. Yeah, they really some things in Age of Ultron kind of irked me a bit with that too. But yeah. What else can I say about Winter Soldier? Most people generally just really like it, so take it for what it's worth. Winter Soldier, solid movie, and so on and so forth. Okay, all right. Let's get this ball rolling. We'll talk to my time to talk about my favorite MCU film. I have a giant poster of it that's sitting right behind me. Number one in terms of my Marvel Cinematic Universe rankings, Avengers: Infinity War. But did you see the Ant-Man parody posters that came out around the film's release? No, I did not, Justin. Number one for me is Avengers: Infinity War. I love Infinity War. I really, really do. That's why I was so disappointing when I saw how Endgame turned out compared to this one. Was such a step down. But Avengers: Infinity War, immediately as it's from the beginning to the end of it, I was thrilled. I was on the edge of my seat. Thanos was such an awesome villain, one of the best villain of 2018, and just kind of like everyone was coming together. It's exciting. It's paced very well. Thanos is great. The musical score by Alan Silvestri is really good. It moves along at such a brisk pace, and the ending is so ballsy and shocking, and just really everything on the movie was clicking. The action sequences are amazing. The battle on Titan was great. It just went super exciting. And Ghidorah was the best one in 2019. As of right now, Justin, Pennywise is gunning for the crown still. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is coming, and Palpatine's going to try, but let's face it, the new Star Wars movies are bad. They're just not going to come together very well. Thanks to this movie, we got Infinity Wars for the comic. Oh my god, that event comic was really bad. I haven't paid attention to it yet, but yeah. I love Avengers: Infinity War. I even bought a freaking Infinity Gauntlet. Thanos, one of the most amazing comic book villains of all time. Finally, all this build up, and we finally got some great payoff with it. And even then, it was still split into two movies. But again, I understand people's issues with it. It doesn't stand out on its own unless you've seen the other films. Like if you jump into this movie now, you're going to be confused to what the hell is going on. Even if you don't watch all the MCU films, you're going to be like, okay, what's going on here? So. But because I've seen all that and because I know where we kind of came from a bit, but I just really like this one. Epic visuals, emotional moments, the so many quotable parts. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thanos wins. The bad guy wins. It's a ballsy ending. It's like a horror movie where the villain always kind of comes out on top. But this one, the bad guy wins. I love it. And then he just kind of sits there. He's like, I know what it's like to lose, to feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail all the same. It's frightening. Turns the legs into jelly. I ask you to what end? Dread it, run from it. Destiny still arrives all the same. To rear its ugly head. It's just, God, is it good? It's just so many great moments with Thanos. I love it, love it, love it, love it. I really love this movie. I have a giant Infinity War banner. I am inevitable. Yeah, Thanos just kicked major ass. His plan as a villain. Yeah, some people were like, you could just double up the resources. And there are ways they could have stopped him outside of what they used in the film. You could have found plenty of ways to stop Thanos, but they really ultimately just kind of didn't use him. Like Doctor Strange, he has that ability to kind of teleport. And like even at one point, Wong even chopped up a dude's arm. Like, couldn't they have just done that with Thanos? They could have just chopped up his arm when he was kind of trapped in there. And Peter Quill kind of screwed things up. And it's just like, Nebula, just get his ass away from there. But yeah, great stuff. I loved it. Avengers: Infinity War, solid all-around movie. Can't think of too many issues with it. It just was exciting. Thanos' grimace gone bad. I'll laugh out loud. Yeah, he kind of is. Josh Brolin's performance, second to none. And yeah, so those are my entirety of my Marvel Cinematic Universe rankings. My throat's just killing me right now. Even then, just to go ahead and we'll go ahead and recap the whole list. For those of you who are kind of joining in late, let's go back to 20. So here's my rankings. Number 23, Captain Marvel. Number 22, Iron Man 2. Number 21, Iron Man 3. Number 20, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 19, Thor. Number 18, Thor: The Dark World. Number 17, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 16, Black Panther. Number 15, Incredible Hulk. Number 14, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 13, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 12, Avengers Age of Ultron. Number 11, Doctor Strange. Number 10, Captain America the First Avenger. Number 9, Avengers Endgame. Number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 7, Thor Ragnarok. Number 6, Ant-Man. Number 5, Iron Man. Number 4, The Avengers. Number 3, Captain America Civil War. Number 2, Captain America the Winter Soldier. And number 1, Avengers Infinity War. So there you have it, everyone. Those are my rankings for all 23 Marvel Cinematic Universe films. And I guess right now I'll take a moment or two to chit-chat about what was it I was looking for? To chit-chat about where I see Phase 4 and my thoughts on the future of the MCU. So let's Phase 4. Okay, let's close this out really quick. So let's talk Phase 4 for a second. I see Captain Marvel is at the bottom. Yes, Tevya, I was bored out of my mind at that movie. It was a really close toss-up between that and Iron Man 2. I was hoping it would be better, but it really just didn't. It didn't connect. I was bored out of my mind. I mean, what does everyone want from me? I know people are going to be like, some people, the woke Twitter, someone will come after me and just call me all sorts of foul things, but I don't give a shit. What is it? Okay, so let's get chit-chat about Phase 4 and what I think of it going forward. I'm kind of, in all honesty, I'm really kind of checked out with the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general. I feel like it's really just overdone and overstayed its welcome in some ways and regards. Yeah, Twitter is a freaking mess. I feel like it's kind of just gone a little bit overboard and overkill at certain points. We've had 23 movies. Think about this, 23 fucking movies in 11 years. And we just got so many more things on the way. That's too much. People like to say, oh, there's just too many in this franchise. And they're like, oh, it's overdone. Like, people complain about Fast and Furious having a lot of movies. 23 Marvel movies, 11 years. Fast and Furious is on, like their 10th movie in, in 18 years or something like that. I'm like, just look at that. Like, it's goddamn ridiculous how many freaking movies we have in this universe and so soon. Now, I say that with my Godzilla avatar, and I'm like, but Sean, there's 35 Godzilla films. Yes, but they spaced those movies out since 1954. The Bond films, they're only going to be on Bond 25. And now we have like 23 movies in this universe. And it's just gotten to the point where it's just like, okay, this is just kind of ridiculous how many freaking movies are at this point. But yeah, I was looking at the Phase 4 lineup. The only movie I'm kind of looking forward to, like Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness is one that I look forward to seeing. And I guess possibly Blade, assuming, yeah, Spidey has 3 reboots, but still, like, it's not 23 movies. I mean, granted, if you take the Spider-Man movies out, that's like 21, or even the 5, it's still like 18 movies without Spider-Man in the MCU. That's still a lot of movies. I mean, it's just too much. Like, that's kind of the medium we're in right now, where it's like, I'm just done. I'm kind of checked out. I'm like, okay, if they did like, and even then, it doesn't count the freaking TV shows or the Disney Plus shows. I don't think I might be getting Disney Plus, so I might not check out those shows that they're doing. They had like Falcon and Winter Soldier. It doesn't really interest me too much. What else do we have? Loki show. I mean, Tom Hiddleston's good, but again, I'm just burnt out. I'm like, there's way too much things. Let me look at Marvel's Phase 4 lineup really quick, so I kind of chit chat about it. Let's take a look at this lineup. Okay. Let's take a look at this whole thing. Okay, so Marvel has Black Widow coming out next year. I guess I'll check that out. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. WandaVision, Shang-Chi, don't know much about. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, look forward to. What If is a cool concept. They have Thor, Love and Thunder. They have Hawkeye, Disney Plus shows. It's just too much stuff for me. I don't know if anybody's feeling the same way. If we count the Amazing Spider-Man as one review, the MCU being the second, yeah, Spider-Man's had a lot of stuff, Tevia, but I mean, come on, like this universe, it's overdone. There's too much going on. And that's not even counting like Black Panther 2. That's not counting they do Ant-Man 3. There's so much stuff. Whoa. I mean, let's like Black Widow next year. We have the Eternals. Don't even know or don't care about. Shang-Chi. Don't really know. Don't care about. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. That looks cool. Thor: Love and Thunder is going to be. I know. WandaVision. What Ifs. Hawkeye. Miss Marvel. Moon Knight. She-Hulk. And that's not even including what was like Phase 5 that they already have kind of plans. Like Black Panther 2, Blade, Captain Marvel 2, Fantastic Four, Guardians 3. This is all within like this is how much stuff is that? Let's count that. Let's how many movies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies. 5 movies in the next 2 years. The TV shows we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 within the next 2 to 3 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have like 10 movies planned between now and 2024. That's too much, man. I'm just freaking burnt out, and I'm not really looking forward to anything. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is like the only one that really has me excited. The rest, no. Thor: Love and Thunder, no. Natalie Portman was terrible in the Thor movies, and I don't want to see her anymore. Black Widow, yeah, I'll check it out, but like even then, like her character's gone. It's just kind of like, oh, here you go, Scarlett. Here's your movie. That's just that's about it. It's just a prequel film. So I don't know. I really don't know what they're gonna do with it. So yeah. But yeah, so the MCU going forward, I'm checked out. In all honesty, I'm just checked out of it. Thor: Love and Thunder, I'm excited as hell. I'm not excited for it. I just don't care. What they're gonna do. I really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok, but Natalie Portman is coming back, and I'm like, no, and probably Darcy, and then I'm like, no, they're the worst parts of the Thor movies. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at a bit. But yeah, if you're excited for it, that's good for you. But phases 4 and 5, I'm like, I just feel like I think it's time to check out. I think it's time for me to just, I'm like, okay, I'll go out on a high note. We had our stuff. We had our ending with Endgame. But going forward, I just don't really see anything really to get too excited about, aside from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So yeah, and I think having it on the Disney Plus shows, I can see this is where the MCU is going to start to decline a bit. Like, what else do we have to look forward to? Mostly because I love Jane Foster Thor. She's really awesome, badass in the comics, and I don't see Darcy appearing in this movie. You say that now, Tevia, but just wait. Darcy will show up at some point. It is inevitable that we get more Darcy. But yeah, so that's my impressions on the rankings of the MCU films. Now that they have the Disney Plus shows, I'm just kind of bummed. I'm like, look, I'm Disney Plus. I'm like, yeah, the fans are going to be it's basically 70s Godzilla repeating itself. Well, Justin, 70s Godzilla, like at least there was a break. We didn't have 5 movies within like 2 years or something like that. Like it was just, you have a Godzilla movie like for like a few years, and then they just called it quits. Godzilla, I mean, he's had a lot of movies over the years, but think about it. In terms of his series and that, it's spaced out. I want the MCU to take like a 5-6 year break and then come back, because I'm just like, okay, like it's kind of killed the film industry in certain ways because everything tries to be a shared universe now. No other movies are making money outside of Marvel and Disney films, and it's a real shame. I really wanted to see other movies kind of take off and do better. But if people are only going to go pay to see this stuff, then yeah, it's going to be kind of a disappointment. See where things kind of are in that regard. So, does anybody have any more questions? You want to let me know really quick before I end the stream and my throat just, is completely gone. Any other questions? More questions? Any more questions? I'll just see. This is a fun stream though. I've enjoyed chit-chatting with everyone about it. So, any more questions? Going once, going twice, and which non? Okay. All right, which non-Godzilla Toho movie should I send you through Google Drive? We'll talk later about that, Justin. I already have all the non-Godzilla Toho films. I'm pretty certain, so you don't have to send anything for there. Question: how do you feel about Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk appearing in the MCU? I'm not really familiar with Miss Marvel. Same with Moon Knight. I'm slightly aware of She-Hulk, but I guess it's cool to have you. Really not much in regards to that. I'm like not really excited because, like I said, I'm more of a DC comics person than I am a Marvel comics person. Don't get me wrong, I like a lot of the Marvel stuff, and like I said, the MCU for the most part has been pretty successful. But I'm at that point where I'm just like, I just don't want anymore. I really want something different. I know people like to shit on DC comics for a lot of their movies, but at least a lot of them are tonally very different. Like Shazam and Aquaman, like they're more standalone movies, and you don't have to necessarily watch everything else. But they're so tonally different from each other, and they feel different. Like Joker, this movie's going to come out, it's going to kind of change the game. And I'm like, I'm so excited for this movie because it's going to be completely grounded, no real CGI. It's going to be like a nice character study of someone. It's going to be very different in feel and tonally. So yeah, there's that. So all right. Well, thank you all for joining me in this stream. I had a lot of fun chatting with you all. And I look forward to doing more of these types of videos. I really just kind of want to get something out there. I will try and be posting a video later on tonight that had my skydiving experience, which should be fun. And I got other stuff planned for the channel. Just wanted to have some fun doing a live stream. There's other live stream ideas I want to talk about in the future, but I really had a good time tonight. So I really thank you all for joining me for this. I guess look forward to Phase 4 of the MCU. I don't think I'll be getting Disney Plus. So I guess I'll just have to stick with the movies, and I'll probably be confused or whatever. But yeah, so there's that. All right, I'm going to end this broadcast. Any more questions? No more? All right, going once, going twice. And yeah, I'm going to end this broadcast. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Come back to my next stream or videos and that. We'll do some more stuff. We'll chit-chat some more. I really like this new software. I'm using this StreamYard thing that Tevya told me about, and I really like it. I think it's really cool. So, yep, go ahead. See you, Tevya. See you, Justin. And in case I don't see you again, good morning, good evening, and good night. Peace out, everyone. Bye-bye. End broadcast. All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then. And I'll see you all in the next video.